Now? Sure. Are we ready?
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Victor Muchuruza. I'm in Systems Planning Office section within Central Office at Florida Department of Transportation. I would like to welcome you today to the first webinar on the 2014 Median Handbook. This is an update to a previous version, and much of the material is similar to, so there is not a need to relearn everything. Since we only have 1.5 hours, we will definitely not cover everything in the book. Our goal today is to get you familiar with the materials in this handbook and how to use them to answer common questions in regard to the use of medians and decision on the design and location of median openings. We'll try and make this a presentation as informal as we can. We'll answer questions as we go through our interactive question and answer tools. With you today, myself, Victor Muchuruza, who is a consultant within Florida Department of Transportation, is Gary Sokolo with Systems Planning, Gina Bonyani, also Systems Planning, and Andrew Young. Together, we have prepared this training, and we've produced the handbook. You'll have an opportunity to hear from us and also an opportunity to ask questions. One of the questions which we mostly get is that you'll be able to receive PDH credit from this webinar. You can email me your request. My email is there, victor.muchuruza@dot.state.fr.us. You'll also be able to get a copy of this presentation. In addition to that, this presentation is being recorded. Since this is a presentation on a handbook, your main source will be the handbook and not this presentation. If you notice, on the bottom right, you'll see a page card with a number. So this means that is a page number from the Median Handbook. We hope you can have a paper or PDF version of this handbook so that you can follow with this training. This will serve the purpose of helping you to not only learn the material, but learn where to find new information on this handbook. Very briefly, I'm going to show you how to participate this webinar through the use of the webinar control tool. By clicking the orange arrow, you can open and close the control panel. Look like my mouse is not responding. From the view menu, you can also set the control panel not to auto hide when inactive, if you prefer to keep it always open. By clicking on the audio pen, you can have audio information. If the organizer has given attendees a choice, by default you have joined this webinar through mic and speakers. By clicking on the audio setup, you can select computer speakers or headset or use a telephone. If you prefer, you can use either the telephone, and then when you use the telephone, remember to put an audio pin, which is come with your control panel. You can submit the question through the question pane, and then one of us will be monitoring this question and provide the answer. Somewhere in between, you should be able to get all your questions answered by the presenters. You can also raise your hand to ask the question, and then the moderator is gonna give you the control of the mic to answer the to ask the question, and the question is gonna be answered. We would like to start with a poll question to get an idea on who you present today. I'm gonna launch a poll very quickly, so pay attention. So please take your time and answer this poll question. Who do you represent? Are you coming from Florida Department of Transportation or local government, regional agents, a consultant, or federal government? So I'm going to give you a few seconds to respond to this question. Look like most of you have voted. Give you 10 more seconds. All right, look like I got everybody. I'm going to close up the poll. And then I'm going to share the poll to you before I hand it to Mr. Gary Socorro, who is going to continue with a presentation about this handbook. So look like a majority of you are coming from Department of Transportation, 80%, and the rest are consultants. We don't have people from local government, regional agencies, or federal government. So I'm going to hide the poll, and then Gail would continue from there. Gail, can you continue?
Yes, Victor, thank you. I appreciate that, and let me talk a little bit about the where we came from on this. As he said before, this is Gary Socorro. I've been involved in every one of these versions of the Median Handbook. Our first one came out in 1997. It was updated in 2006, and we called it interim. But after 8 years, we figured it was time to actually update the handbook, and that's what we've done. As mentioned previously, the principles of median design and placement have not changed greatly even since 1997. However, there have been important updates to FDOT and national documents such as the AASHTO Green Book. So we took this opportunity to update these references as well as to modernize some of the look and feel. As we said previously, there have been many updates to our standards. By our standards, I mean FDOT standards and national standards. I'm going to do a little advertisement for another excellent document. DOT puts out a regular Florida intersection design guide, and it contains much information that can help with the design of median openings and median opening placement. We reference it frequently in this handbook. In recent years, the DOT has become more accepting, and now they're even promoting roundabouts. So we've decided to put a new chapter in the handbook to talk about access management, especially median opening and median features near roundabouts. We've attempted to build on the knowledge that we have, and we have this new chapter, as I said, on roundabouts that is strictly on driveways and medians. They're called splitter islands near roundabouts. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this slide on every individual chapter. The idea here is to give you an overview. However, there are 7 chapters, all with some new information that should help you with your decisions. We will today spend a significant amount of time on chapters 1, 2, and 3, the introduction, the important concepts, and sight distance, because these affect other design elements that we'll be discussing in chapters 4, 5, 6, and 7. And it's important to know some of these basic transportation principles. Like previous versions of this handbook, we need to make it clear that not everything in it is actually a standard. Even though we do have standards within this handbook that are taken directly from our official documents, such as the Standard Index and the Plans Preparation Manual, it's always been our goal to get a single document that will have references not only to our standards and rules, but as well to general good practice based on the latest research, based on the latest traffic and transportation planning and engineering classes that they are teaching today. We've done this to give you an idea, not just how to look up a table, but to guide you on where some of these numbers came from. You'll have to read the handbook more closely than just attending this to get to the bottom of that. But we just want you to keep in mind, unless it's otherwise stated, what's in here is guidance and food for thought to help you make the best decision. I'm going to hand this over to Gina Bognani, who will talk to us about the introduction. It is an important chapter that talks about the benefits of medians and gives you a basis for the rest of the webinar.
Okay, thank you, Gary, and good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule and joining us this afternoon. The chapter 1 of this median handbook is the overview of many benefits of having a restrictive medians. And for the purpose of this handbook and training, we do not consider the 5-lane section with the center turn lane as a real median. So when we refer to 5-lane section, it's a section with the center lane, and that's not considered as a real median. This chapter talks about the benefits of the medians, and we know that a restrictive median with a well-designed median opening, it's one of the most important tools to create a safe and efficient transportation system. Most of us are familiar with the AASHTO Green Book that states in the handbook, in the Green Book, a median is highly desirable on arterials carrying 4 or more lanes. So we hope with this chapter we can help to fulfill the needs in regard to the locations of medians and benefits of the medians. All right, there are 4 basic benefit types of the use of restrictive medians. One is the vehicular safety. Medians can help reduce the number of conflict points and also the severity of conflict points. Second benefit is the benefit to the pedestrian. Medians provide a refuge for people crossing the highways, so pedestrian can judge traffic coming only from one direction at the time. And the third benefit is the operational efficiency, because the medians remove turning vehicles and place them at the fewer location, and this makes the highway safer, and also drivers can react to less conflicts when traffic the turning movements are separated. And also the last benefit of the median is that it provides aesthetics of the roadways by having landscaping area, and not only landscaping is good for visual impact, but also it can lend itself well to visibility during bad weather. Okay, if you need to have a very good reason why medians have a positive benefit, it's because it reduces the number of conflict points. And this picture on the left shows a cross-section where there is no median, and as you can see, the conflict points are everywhere. And one way to limit the number of conflict points is to provide a median with well-designed openings. And as you can see, the example to the right, it's a directional median opening, only allowing left turns and prohibiting allowing left turns in from the major movement, and prohibiting left turns from the driveway or the side street. This is an example of a directional median opening on US 98 in the Panhandle area of Florida. And as you can see, the long divisional island in this design can encourage movements to be made in a correct way. And as you can see, the term that is used in transportation engineering is to describe a clear and simple direction, which we call it positive guidance. And when we're designing any transportation facility, we need to use the positive guidance to improve the efficiency and safety of the road. And this is an example of a narrow directional median. As you can see, it's a narrow median with a 22-foot median. This may not, the narrow median itself may not be a positive guidance, but as you can see, the painted lines encourage drivers towards the correct use. But again, at times we may see illegal maneuvers, but we hope that these illegal maneuvers happen during the very low traffic. Research has shown that restricted median have a significant safety benefit. And in 1993, there was an evaluation on urban multi-lane facilities in Florida, and this research showed that the crash rates for roads with restrictive medians were 25% lower than those with two-way left turn lanes. And after the 1993, there has been other research that really validates this research that was done by University of South Florida, and this really other research have shown that restrictive medians do result in lower crash rates. So recently, the Florida Department of Transportation completed a research on roadway corridors that were retrofitted with restrictive medians. One of the locations that we analyzed was Appalachia Parkway here in Tallahassee. And if you can see, pedestrian in the middle of the road, that's not a good situation for the pedestrian. And so based on this research, the crash data shows a significant safety benefit on Appalachia Parkway after the median was constructed. It's a little slow when I click. But anyways, this is the Appalachian Parkway before the median was constructed, and this is the same location, Appalachian Parkway, after the median was constructed. And as you can see, not only the median is constructed, but also the sidewalk on the right-hand side of this picture. And this graph shows the results of the between the two situations before the median was constructed and after the median was constructed. And as you can see, after the median was constructed, the decline of the crash rates. And in the addition to the study that we did on Appalachian Parkway, we looked at other number of corridors, and we saw the impacts of the median openings after the medians were the impacts of having restrictive medians after the medians were constructed. And as you can see in this picture, before the median was constructed, we had 9 crashes. And the color of these dots, as you can see on the bottom, it shows you the severity or the type of crash. So before the median was constructed, 9 crashes, and after the median was constructed, as you can see, significantly reduced the number of crashes. And also, as you can see, we see as far as colors through green, which shows only the left turn type of crashes, as we can see. So it reduced the head-on, rear end, and other types of crashes. We have touched on this before, but why do medians improve safety? There are 2 major reasons that medians reduce conflicts and also simplifies the task for the drivers as well as the other users such as pedestrian or even the bicyclists. In this photograph, you can see all the conflict points that the driver has to consider and also safely maneuvering the road. As you can see, there are so many conflict points that a driver has to pay close attention to. And in the terminology of human factor research, we call it driver information load. As you can see, there are many areas that the driver is really overloaded with the information and the surrounding. And this is why we want to minimize these information loads by really doing away with these center lanes and constructing raised medians. And this is after the median is put in, and as you can see, the restrictive median shows really there aren't too many conflict areas, or the information load has been really reduced significantly. One of the questions that we professionals get frequently is that we or FDOT are causing too many U-turns. And the fear is that U-turns are less safe and require the driver to put themselves in more danger meaning by traveling a long distance. But a number of studies, including one done here at the University of South Florida, shows under most urban conditions, making the right turn followed by a U-turn is much more safer than making a direct left turn. And as you can see, the reduction in crash rates and also the reduction in fatality rates. I'm going to give this poll to Gary.
I can do this poll. Okay. Gina, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Gary.
Yeah. We have a poll here, and I'll be doing that poll. And let me ask you, have you ever heard of the Highway Safety Manual? So I will be launching this and giving you an opportunity okay, right. far. I see some really good results here, since this is such an important tool. Okay, I'm going to close the poll right now, and then you should be seeing, in a moment, you should be seeing the answers to this. Okay. All right. So all of you have heard of the Highway Safety Manual, and almost 20% of you have actually used it. And that's pretty impressive, since I just learned about it about a year and a half ago myself. All right. So we can continue with the presentation, and I will hand the controls back to you, Gina. I'm sorry.
Very good. I got it.
Oh, you got it.
Thank you very much.
Excellent.
All right. So very good. So 80% have heard of the Highway Safety Manual, and 18% have applied the methodology from Highway Safety Manual. And so as we all know, Highway Safety Manual is a document that has been recently released. When I say recently, I would say maybe a couple of years ago. And this is a document that is significantly, it determines and predicts the crashes based on improvements, and it tells us exactly based on an existing condition that we have what the crash rates are, and if we make improvements, what the crash rates would be. So in this Highway Safety Manual, there is a chapter 13 that talks about raised medians, the width of the medians, and it and again shows us exactly how raised medians can reduce the number of crashes, and also the width of the median. And Part C of the HSM also has the predictive methodology. And again, in Chapter 13, Section 14, it does talk about and shows us the benefits of access management and driveways. So one of our FDOT districts used the Highway Safety Manual and applied the methodology to one of the roadways, the State Road 574, and they wanted to see the benefits of the restrictive median where the right-of-way costs were going to be close to 1.6 million with over the for the without the restrictive medians. So what they did, they looked at the existing conditions, and the existing conditions were it's a 4-lane road with about 1 mile length, ADT of 30,000, and they wanted to see the benefit of the restrictive median, even though if when the right-of-way would cost close to 1.6 million. So this exhibit came from the Highway Safety Manual, and it's called the Safety Performance Functions, and it shows based on the number of lanes, as you can see, 5-lane section and 4-lane section, and based on the 30,000 ADT, as you can see, 5-lane section has a higher number of crashes, 11. Okay, even just by looking at this without really calculating anything. And then if we look at the 4-lane with the raised median, 30,000 ADT, as you can see, number of crashes went from 11 to 6 crashes. So in order to really justify any project, we really have to do a benefit cost analysis. Without this, I don't think it can be justified. So in this example, they looked at the 4-lane crash cost, as you can see, 2.2 million, and also they looked at the 5-lane crash cost, 6.4 million. And the difference between these two, as you can see to the right, is 4.2 million. Then they also looked at the 4-lane right-of-way cost, 2.2, and 5-lane right-of-way cost, 600,000. And again, the difference between these two is 1.6 million. So we divide the difference between crash cost over the difference between right-of-way cost, 2.64, that's the benefit cost analysis. And benefit cost analysis has to be really based on the highway safety manual, has to be over 1 in order to be justified. And if you want to have more information on that and say why or how this was calculated, again, you can go to Highway Safety Manual, Chapter 12-13, that gives you much more information on how to calculate the benefit cost or why benefit cost ratio is needed in order to justify research, an improvement. Administrative Rule Chapter 14-97 establishes 7 access management classification. Standard within the rule are for medians, median opening, spacing, and as well as driveway spacing. There are classes 1 through 7, which one is for freeways, but we're not showing it in this rule. And then it's from 2 to 7 for arterials, which 2 being the most strict access management class and 7 being the least strict access management class. And these classifications are further divided, as you can see, by speed limit for 45 miles and over, and I think I went too far, and 45 miles or less than 45 miles. And it gives you, again, based on the access management classification, median types, it tells you how far median openings, whether it's full or directional, have to be spaced from each other. And one of the most important policies that ever established at Florida DOT was the multi-lane median policy, which is now part of the Plans Preparation Manual, PPM, and this portion of the Plan Preparation Manual makes a provision of the restrictive median on new multi-lane projects. It makes it the rule rather than the exception. So we know that the provision of a new median or the closing of an opening of an existing median opening can be very controversial, and for this reason we have a procedure that has set up an access management and median opening review team in each of our districts. And these access management review team have been in existence for, I would say, over 10 years. So in this way, median opening decisions, I mean, sometimes it's just not black and white, really. Sometimes it can be just handled at the local level.
Hey Gina, can I talk about this one?
Go ahead.
Yeah. The only reason I'm butting in is that I've been around long enough to know where some of the research came from Georgia and Georgia Tech. But as far as a strategy to help to help safety in the state of Florida, and we are doing it, is to retrofit current 7 and 5 lane sections to regular divided highways with restrictive medians. The 7 lane section should be the highest priority with all the conflicts that can be anywhere. Existing 5 lane roadways that have over 28,000 vehicles a day, actually what happens is they lack the critical gaps necessary for safe left turns. And that is also when you should consider putting in a restrictive median.
Very good. Thank you, Gary.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay. In 2010, there was a change in the access management, and this law was passed just to make sure we do involve public when it comes to relocating medians or closing the existing medians. Or so the law really requires us whenever we change a median, whether it's opening a median or moving a median opening, to involve public. And so this median handbook contains lots of details on the law as well as the guidance that has been produced by the departments. And sometimes really involving public can be very difficult, and we may really need to get some guidance from the legal. With that said, I'm gonna turn it over to Andrew to see if we have any questions.
I'm not showing any questions.
Very good. We can go on then to the next chapter, and I'm going to turn it over to Gary.
Okay, I just want to let people know not to be shy, to ask questions. If you have a speaker phone, or if you're on the telephone and you think you can talk, I'd be happy if you raise your hand to unmute you, and you can ask questions. As I said, we're trying to make this as informal as possible. And okay, well, I don't see any hands raised right now, but I absolutely know that there are questions out there. You think about them. All right. In Chapter 2 of the Median Handbook, we touch on the technical concepts that go into median and median opening decisions, and we try to put these concepts all in one chapter because they are important to understand how they work together, and they are also important in understanding the following chapters. Before we get really technical, it's important to know what not to do when it comes to median openings. Every intersection does have a physical, right here, as well as a functional area around it. This area is for the operation of this either signal or unsignalized median opening. And this functional area should be respected. And the first thing, don't put any more median openings in this area. You should not put median openings across left turn lanes. It's really important. It is a real confusing situation, and it is something that drivers do not expect. And I have noticed in my travels around the state that we have gotten rid of most of the ones that I knew about. Another not do is to have a median opening within a turn lane. This design used to be more uncommon, but we've gotten rid of most of these also. Okay, so that's what you should do. This is an example of one that's since been corrected, where we put in a median opening through a dual left turn bay. As I said, it has been corrected. This is an old picture. The other is to avoid median openings that cross exclusive right turn lanes. There is a problem with the Good Samaritan. As you can see, what happens here is that the left turning vehicle into a driveway that is located on a continuous right turn lane is let in by these Good Samaritans. Let's find those Good Samaritans. There they are. And the visibility is such that they are blindsided by the free-flowing vehicle in this long, possibly too long, exclusive right turn lane. I have seen a number of ways of dealing with this around the state of Florida. Sometimes they work with the actual turn lane, either shortening it or marking it in such way for people to know that this is a special area. And along State Road 436 in the Orlando area, they have closed a number of median openings in this situation. So don't do that. Do that instead. We've discussed a number of things not to do when placing a median opening, but we're going to get into more specific guidance right now to help you determine the appropriate location of median openings. You can probably break it down into 3 criteria that should be looked at in making median opening location decisions, and they're very similar to the decisions you need to make for an intersection. We're going to approach this as a driver who is approaching an intersection. Okay. First, you need space and time for the driver to figure out what they're going to do. Are they going to stop? Are they going to get into a turn lane? Or are they going to go straight? These numbers that are on the screen here come from the Ash to Green Book, or they also come from the Florida Intersection Design Guide, which now has the 2014. Again, highly recommended. This are just good estimates of what that distance for decision making should be based on the area type and the speed. Now, deceleration is handled in our design standards in Standard Index 301. Sometimes they can be a little confusing to read, but the important, in my opinion, the important thing as you look at Standard Index 301 is that deceleration, which is made of the taper to the end of the expected Q, is based on this distance here. And like for 45 miles an hour, the total deceleration distance would be 185 feet. This 185 feet was designed to allow a car that is going 45 miles an hour to slow down 10 miles an hour to completely enter the exclusive left turn lane. Okay, this will be important. Okay, so the entry speeds are actually an important feature that you should be aware of in the standard index. The reason that entry speeds are important are because of something that's called speed differential, or difference between speeds, to make it more plain English. In the situation that we try to design for in Florida, if you're designing for 45 miles an hour, you would expect that left turn driver to enter the turn lane at 35 miles an hour. 45 minus 35 equals 10. This is a 10 mile an hour speed differential, and usually considered safe by the profession. Now, what happens is if you've designed it for a certain queue, and we'll discuss queue in a few moments, and there are more cars than you expected, and you've been in this situation where a car, you're 45 miles an hour, and you go, oh God, there's not much space left, and I now have to slow down to 15 miles an hour to get in here. Or even worse, you're slowing down to 15 and then stopping, and you're not even in the turn lane. In this case, this is a 35 or a 30 mile per hour speed differential, 45 minus 15. Okay, so that's all based on the fact that you got different realistic or different practical deceleration distances. And that is why the queue is so important. But unfortunately, the queue is highly variable, and it's kind of guesswork in some ways. The necessity to store vehicles and trying to get that right is important for the operations of the intersection. The basic building block of queue length is the typical passenger vehicle. This is a standard passenger vehicle. The space needed for a car in a queue is around 25 feet, which is made up of the 19 feet of the typical vehicle, with 3 feet on either side, or 6 feet being the buffer. Now, how do you figure out queues? Well, the best way, we say, is through a study. But knowing, again, studies are variable. They're based on assumptions of the future that could change. Queue lengths tend to vary during the same day, the same hour, and a lot of times they just seem random. If there is an urban area at a typical unsignalized median opening, there should be a minimum of 100 feet or 4 vehicles. Remember that we said that we're using 25 feet as the typical vehicle length. In rural areas or other areas where you expect low volumes or very low volumes, you can use 50-foot or 2-vehicle queue. And also remember that when you're in a rural area, it doesn't mean it's necessarily going to be low traffic. All right. We don't know in the future what's going to happen. If at all possible, try to be generous with the design of queue storage. Based on random arrivals at the unsignalized median openings, we have used a formula to come up with an estimate that takes you left turns per hour expected, and provided this table of a simplified method for determining the queue length. This is all based on the 25 feet. There is further guidance in the handbook for over 10% trucks. This is for up to 10% truck vehicles. Well, we spent very little time on the official spacing of median openings as shown in the access management standards, and there's a reason. The reason being that we didn't want our professionals to have to just always answer questions from the public by saying, well, that doesn't meet the standards. It doesn't meet the standards. We really want our professionals to know where these standards came from and why they're important. So it's one of the major reasons that we put out the median handbook. So, you know, we feel that the numbers in the standards are a good guide. They give you good flexibility, but you really do need to be thinking about deceleration, queue storage, and the turning radii. And I'll show you how this fits together. Let's take a look at this very tight urban example, two intersections, and in this instance there is a full median opening at both directions. We'll call it east and west, and they share a 50-foot taper. There is not any portion of this median that is truly, let's say, 22 feet wide. Okay, and I always like to use 45 miles an hour as my test case. This makes me not have to memorize many things, but 185 feet is the deceleration for 45 miles an hour, and in this case, because we don't have any full median width, they're sharing this 50 feet right there. We've given 100 feet on both ends as a minimum, and we're adding the 60 feet of turning radius. If you went from beginning to end, this would be your median opening spacing. This is the way we would like people to think about median opening spacing, not just some standard out of a rule. We want people to think about this in a way that they will use traffic engineering principles. Okay, so this is 640 feet here. That is pretty tight. And as a person my age remembers when we used to go and when we were building multi-lane roads, we would build them every 330 feet. So it's one of the reasons we came up with that. This is, I guess, a more realistic, non-standard that shows some distance here. We're, again, working our way from the inside out, about 130 feet of full median opening to allow for better visibility, 185 feet of deceleration, and for the signalized intersection here, 350 feet of queue storage, which is not uncommon for a high-use left turn lane under new construction. This intersection here is not signalized, so we're using the minimum of 100 feet here and 185 feet for deceleration also. And if you added all these numbers together, it's a bit over 1,000 feet. Again, even 660 feet, which used to be something we used to cookie cutter up, doesn't meet that. Median openings near freeway interchanges are extremely important, and we should be well aware of this when we improve freeways and when we allow development along these areas close to freeways on the at-grade arterials. it's critical that median openings be given a significant separation from the on and off ramps of this freeway interchange. This is an example that I know of fairly well because I used to live on Lee Road off of I-4 in the Orlando area, and it is an intersection that is failing frequently. Notice that our directional median opening spacing for Lee Road would be 1,320 feet. And what we have here is only 220 feet. This is a signalized intersection. Notice a driveway only 40 feet from the off-ramp of I-4. For this reason, heavy congestion and backups are common throughout the day here. We already talked about the proper design of a median opening that would allow for deceleration and queue storage. This is an example of what is known, at least in Florida, as a bullet-nosed median opening, which was a very common design in rural areas. And two major problems with the typical bullet nose are that they can only really store one or two vehicles and not behind each other. In order to get the position to make a left turn or U-turn, you really need to slow down way too much, and again, causing a problem with that thing we call speed differential. This is a typical example of what used to be a rural 4-lane roadway, which is now quite urbanized, which happens to a lot of what was once rural multi-lane. You'll see that there are some turn lanes, and these were built probably as part of the permitting process for the businesses alongside. In the center of the roadway, right here, you will see that there is still a bullet nose in existence in this picture. I believe it's changed because of development. The reason that this should be avoided is seen by how many vehicles you just see on this road here. Look how closely people are following. They really need more space for people to slow down and get into an exclusive turn lane in order not to cause rear-end collisions. Another feature that's important is are the lengths of median openings. Sometimes they allow way too many cars to get in there. You can see here that the vehicles are stacked in this opening, and that the driving task is made even more difficult by the fact that some vehicles are blocking the vision of others. At this point, I would also like to stop for questions and ask Andrew or anybody else who has been handling questions.
I'm not seeing any questions, Gary.
Okay. This is obviously the advanced class, and I'm looking at the names. A number of these people I know have been active in previous versions of the median handbook. Okay. Then I'll move on to sight distance here. And it's an important consideration in the placement of median openings. The most important type of sight distance that is used is called intersection sight distance. And that's the sight distance for these vehicles to be able to make intelligent decisions to maneuver with the typical P vehicle. This shows the required sight distance for a 22-foot wide median with a design speed of 45 miles an hour. This is in the standard index, and it calls for 590 feet in this situation. So you can see there are different situations. This is a more realistic view from a real standpoint, However, I do need to point out that this car here really needs to be further back to the stop line, and that was just some problem with the animation as we switched to a different format. This is just an example of the standard index containing many required distances for different situations, such as different design speeds, median types, and vehicle types. This slide only shows the standards for the typical passenger vehicle, also known as the P vehicle, with the 22-foot median. This is probably the most common in the urbanized area of Florida. One special feature we have is in this handbook is a U-turn sight distance. We might be the only state that have ever done this sort of work. There is no known national guidance on this. People from all over the country have asked us to see this. Okay, we used typical the AASHTO standards that were around in 1996, which makes them a little bit more conservative than what they would be today if we recalculated. Another important function or another feature that you should consider in terms of sight distance is the offset of the median opening. Here on the left, you'll see negative offset. In this case, prevents the drivers from seeing oncoming traffic in the through vehicles. Okay, now positive offset, which does require more design and right-of-way, you have a clear view of the cars approaching you. Okay, the use of a positive offset is a very good design feature. Landscaping has been a major factor in the development of sight distance standards here in Florida. Here you will see something from the standard index that shows that somewhere between 100 and 200 feet from the nose of a median opening, depending on conditions, should only have ground cover that will not block vision. But going further, Florida DOT, and I think, again, we're the only state that I know of that have done this, has standards for the spacing of trees on our medians. Please note that there are two sets of standards here, one for up to 11 inches in diameter, the other from over 11 inches in diameter to 18. And there is a reason for this. The fact is that Florida's state tree, the sable palm, fits into that category. Little sidelight here. This is a picture of some sable palms that are native to Florida. This is one of the reasons it was chosen to be the state tree. The Florida Seminoles and Miccosukees, like indigenous Floridians before them, constructed traditional housing using the leaves and trunks of these sable palms, and they were called chickees. It's an important symbol of modern Indian culture. Another good reason why this has been chosen the state tree. Little known fact here that when the Great Seal of Florida was created in the 1800s, it was by an artist who had never been to Florida and lived in North Carolina. And that's the reason that you see mountains. And that's also the reason you see somebody dressed as a Plains Indian rather than a Seminole or Miccosukee. And the other reason you see a cocoa palm, which is not native to Florida. Well, of course, you now notice that it's been corrected with the correct sable palm, which grows all over Florida and is native, and an appropriate Seminole garb. Just a little bit of factoid there. And at this same time, what I would like to do is ask you if you know what the state of Florida bird is. So I'm going to start another poll, if I can, and I'm going to launch it. All right, I have launched it, and give you a little bit of chance to answer this. All right. All of these birds are found in Florida. I will give you that. Okay. Most of you have voted. I'm going to close the polls right now. And I see that what we have and I'm hoping you can see it now. Okay. Yeah, you should be seeing the polls now. That most of you got it right. It's the mockingbird. Very interesting choice, not a very colorful bird. The snowy egret is found around here, and the black-hooded parakeet is, I think, an escapee. But however, the mockingbird is very common here and has some wonderful features, and it really protects its family very, very well. Okay, so you know something about the Florida tree, and you know something about the Florida bird now. And I am trying to hide the poll so I can move on. Sometimes the controls here are I'm going to ask the attendees a question here, since I cannot tell from my viewpoint here. Raise your hand if you see a slide that says how to fit landscaping into safety.
We still see the poll, Gary.
Yeah. That is not on purpose. That is not on purpose. I have tried to hide it 3 times. There we go. It should be, raise your hands now if you see the landscaping slide. You don't see the landscaping slide yet. Well, I am very sorry. Okay. Well, then I will.
There we go.
Okay.
We see it now. Yeah.
Great. That was the slowness of the internet. So the problem with the sable palm was that it grows bigger. Many places would not allow you to have it, and it would go against some of the principles of sight distance, which is that you should never get below a 50% visibility of that car. So a decision was made here in Florida that if the visibility was going to be blocked over 50%, that we would need to provide 2 seconds of unobstructed visibility. This puts it all together, and this is the example of the tree spacing that you would have to have, and under 45 miles an hour, you know, I like doing that. 360 feet of sight distance, which stopping sight distance, which is what you would want to keep clear of trees. But the spacing, if it was a crepe myrtle, would be 40 feet. However, if you were trying to use a sable palm, you would need to have 135 feet. This is a big difference, and now you know why. This provides the 2 seconds. Okay, questions? Any questions? All right, I'll move on. Let's talk about median width. The most important principle we want to go over today in regards to median width is that it is the function of the median that will determine the width of the median. Medians do many things. They can just simply separate traffic. They can be designed to help people get across the street. And more importantly these days now, to provide a good place for U-turns. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. The Plant's Preparation Manual contains these minimums for reconstruction projects that are low speed to all that are greater than 45 miles an hour. We use the Astro Green Book templates to come up with these suggested recommended median widths. For 4-lane highways, 30 foot would be enough for the typical passenger vehicle to make a comfortable U-turn without infringing on the side. You're able to see that the 6-lane highways, they can even be more narrow. This is because the 6-lane roadway, or 3 lanes in one direction, give a much greater space for the typical passenger vehicle to make the U-turn. That leads us to the U-turns. We know we're doing the right job when we've created more U-turns, but you do have to consider them. We touched on the median width. This shows you visually where we came up with those numbers. And what we do is we put in what's necessary, and we've used the AASHTO turning templates. But you do have to plan for these U-turns. You can't just expect them to take care of themselves. So sometimes you do have to build some places for people to turn around. North of the city of Ocala, on US 27, you'll see numerous patches of paving in order to assist you. This median is over 30 feet, but the extra pavement was put in to help serve ranchers and farmers who commonly are using horse trailers and other large vehicles. This is an example of one of those on US 27. And this is one in the Jacksonville area in an urban situation. And you should also be aware that U-turns, as I said, they don't take care of themselves. You need to take care of them. Sometimes have a conflict with the free turning right. And sometimes you might need to have a no right turn in order to prevent this conflict. U-turns are good at most signals if the median is sufficient width or they have extra pavement. And this is just what we were talking about before. At times, after traffic studies, some professionals have decided to put special U-turn locations before or after the main intersection signal. This is a case in District 4. This is the signal. This is a special left or U-turn that takes them out of the queue here, which frees up more green time for that left-hand turn. It was news to me, but there seem to now be turn signals for U-turns only for places where they're designed. This was news to me, but I got to say, it wasn't that long ago for me to see my first roundabout, so I'm always learning things. With this, I will turn it over to Gina.
Thank you, Gary.
Okay, hold on, Gina. And wait a second. I hope you have the controls.
Okay, we'll try it.
Yeah. Yes, it says you do.
All right. Thank you, Gary.
Mm-hmm.
All right. All of us have the new release of Median Handbook, and we all know now Chapter 6 in the Median Handbook. It's about roundabouts, and it's a new chapter in this Median Handbook. So this chapter, what we wanted to do to provide some guidance to help us to determine whether roundabout is an appropriate access management tool for a specific application. And also we wanted this guidance to tell us how to best place these median openings and driveways near the roundabouts. We haven't had guidance when it comes to roundabouts. We didn't have any guidance where to place the median openings or where to place the driveways, but we do have guidance when it comes to intersection. We do have rules, we do have guidance. We know based on the guidance in the vicinity of intersection, we know by following those guidance where to put the median openings or the driveways. So we added this chapter just to give us an idea, at least some guidance to better understand of placement of these median openings or driveways. Roundabouts are ideal for providing U-turn opportunities, and especially if the roundabouts are designed in series, which can really help or create integrated system of moving traffic safely and efficiently. And also roundabouts have shown that they reduce, based on the research that has been done around the country, crashes have been reduced by 78% on serious injuries and fatalities. Well, this is a location in Tallahassee. A local road is, if some of you are familiar with Tallahassee, the Lafayette and the State Arterial is Appalachian Parkway. This roundabout is just the possible solution. It's not in place. Right now there is a signalized intersection, but again, as a possible solution, you know, roundabout could be one solution to redistribute traffic from the major commercial to the back to the state highway system. So this just earlier this year, Florida DOT completed a research project about roundabouts and access management. And as I said earlier, we do have guidance when it comes to intersections and the distances from median openings and driveways to the intersections, but we had no guidance when it came to roundabout and access management. So what we did with this study, the focus of this study was not on the benefits on the roundabouts, nor a design guide. we wanted just to evaluate roundabouts and to understand how to better apply access management when it comes to driveways and median openings in the vicinity of roundabouts. So again, I'm going over this research project very quick. We do have the complete research. If some of you are interested, want to read the whole project, it's available. We'll be glad to send it to you, and also it's available on research website. Anyways, the important findings that we this research came up with, and the result of the research was that roundabouts are very similar to other types of intersections, such as always stop control or any other unsignalized intersection. So the finding was to apply the procedures that we have for intersections and access management to roundabouts. And earlier, Gary talked about did I go too far? I think I...
Andrew,
no,
it seems that you should not touch your keyboard or mouse right now. For some reason, when you do that, it goes under your control.
That's okay, Gary. Anyways, so we looked at the functional area of the roundabouts. Again, we did not have any guidance, any tool to help us, again, where the functional area of a roundabout is. And again, that's why we had a need to do research, just to, again, this is just the beginning of roundabouts. Really, all of us are very new to roundabouts, and we're hoping that we would learn more on roundabouts in the future as we, based on our experience, as we do more research in the future. But again, the findings of this research was that roundabouts really function just like on signalized intersections, or maybe an always stop control. So again, whether it's a roundabout or intersection, we really have to know where we're placing these median openings or driveways. In this case, in a vicinity of roundabouts, as you can see, there is this median opening to this development that can cause a problem with the through movement vehicle. Again, when it comes to roundabout, we really have to study the area, and we need to make sure that these openings or driveways are not too close to the roundabout. So hopefully, based on our experience, once we start working more with roundabouts, and roundabouts are really beginning to increase in Florida, we learn about more on roundabouts. So that concludes my section, and I'm going to turn it over to Andrew Young. Andrew, you got.
Hi, thank you, Gina. Before we move into pedestrian considerations, we do have a question from Bob Kasoy. His question is, do we allow tangent roundabouts? He says that they have an applicant who is proposing one. Gina, are you familiar with his question?
I'm not familiar with this question, and again, our research project was on to know where the functional area of roundabouts are, and we wanted to just provide the guidance where to place these median openings and driveways, and that's what we did. And again, the intent of this research was not how to design roundabouts.
We can unmute him if we need more clarification.
Sure, please go ahead.
Bob, you've been unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Bob, we can hear you.
Yeah, the applicant was unable to obtain right-of-way on one side of the roundabout, so they opted to propose a tangent roundabout, which to me sort of defeats the purpose of a roundabout.
Bob, I agree
Is this
with
a
you.
permanent? Is this a permitting situation?
It will be or could be, but we have not ruled on it yet.
So you will have your traffic operations engineers look at this.
Absolutely. It may already be on its way further than that.
Yeah. Yeah, our research and our chapter, like Gina said, really it was not meant to be. There is just so, the amount of information on roundabouts is just so it's increasing daily, and we really narrowed our focus to just the access management side of the driveways and median openings within the area of the roundabout. We were hearing lots of people believing that you could put driveways right off of right off of roundabouts. There was no problem. You could have as many legs as you wanted. There would be no problem. And our research found that that's not true, at least from what we studied. So if a person is proposing something that your traffic operations people feel is incorrect, then they won't get it.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
All right, thanks, Bob. Okay, I'm going to discuss the final section of the Median Handbook, Pedestrian Considerations. The 2014 Median Handbook contains quite a few updates in the practice of pedestrian safety. As mentioned previously, we are trying to separate conflict points, but not just for automobiles, but also the conflict points between vehicles, pedestrians, and cyclists. Although medians have significant benefit for vehicle operations, they are also beneficial for pedestrians. Pedestrians are permitted to travel along all non-limited access facilities. Therefore, considerations for pedestrian safety and mobility should be included in median design decisions. As shown on the slide, some of the ways that medians help pedestrian safety is restrictive medians provide a refuge for pedestrians, and fewer pedestrian injuries occur on roads with restrictive medians. With regards to pedestrian mobility, with pedestrian crossing treatments incorporated, a complete pedestrian network is provided, resulting in improved connectivity. FDOT's Traffic Engineering Manual has much guidance on the provision of mid-block crossings for pedestrians. This is another area that is going through much design change. This is a picture of a pedestrian refuge island with signs and special pavement markings. Pedestrian refuge islands are a proven safety measure. By providing raised medians or pedestrian refuge areas at marked crosswalks, it has demonstrated a 46% reduction in pedestrian crashes. Even at unmarked crosswalk locations, medians have demonstrated a 39% reduction in pedestrian crashes. This is a picture of a mid-block crossing. Note the diagonal walkway in the median. This is a more recent design. This design is intended to encourage the pedestrian to look at oncoming traffic before they cross. Here's another example of a mid-block crossing, this time on a much larger roadway and a much wider median. Notice that once again, pedestrians are facing the traffic that they must cross. FDOT's Traffic Engineering Manual provides installation criteria for marked mid-block crosswalks. These are the most important factors to consider. Is the proposed location near important generators of pedestrians such as schools and recreational areas? Is there currently a lot of pedestrian crossing demand? What is the crash history near this location? How far is it to other appropriate pedestrian crossings? The Traffic Engineering Manual also provides standards for the appropriate treatments for marked mid-block crossings. The determination of the appropriate treatment is generally based upon pedestrian volumes, vehicular volumes, distances to adjacent traffic signals, etc. The TEM outlines 3 primary treatment options for mid-block crossings beyond an appropriately signed and marked crosswalk. First, the traffic signal, a conventional full traffic signal installed at a mid-block location. Consideration for traffic signal warrant and spacing criteria must be addressed as part of this option. The pedestrian hybrid beacon. This treatment is also referred to as a high-intensity activated crosswalk beacon, or HAWK beacon, H-A-W-K. This treatment provides for signalized, protected pedestrian crossings while minimizing disruption to vehicular flow. Pedestrian hybrid beacons must meet specific warrant criteria for installation as outlined in the TEM. This is a common option in locations where a full traffic signal is not warranted by pedestrian volumes, demand, or our more intense warning treatment. And finally, supplemental beacons. The TEM provides two options for supplemental beacons. One, the flashing yellow warning beacons, and two, rectangular rapid flashing beacons. Conventional flashing yellow warning beacons installed as part of a regulatory or warning signs provides additional emphasis on the crossing location. Note that the TEM requires that these beacons be activated by a pedestrian to increase the effectiveness of the treatment. RRFBs are also pedestrian actuated and quickly flash alternating warning lights in a wig-wag pattern. Gary, I'm going to hand it off to you for your...
It will be me now. And this, you haven't even seen this, but this came in really just minutes before the presentation, and I thought it would be important to talk about this. This is a flyer from the Florida Association of State Troopers, and trying to answer the question is, how do good drivers get killed on our highways? 42% of good drivers, those found not at fault, were killed in head-on collisions. One measure that you can take to reduce your risk as a driver is to use major highways where traffic flows are separated by medians. I think that's a pretty good endorsement of the work that we're doing. We would all like to thank you for taking this opportunity. Thank you. And joining us today from your busy schedules for this participation. Please note the email addresses here. If you have questions, you can ask any of us. It has been a pleasure, and we look forward to having you at other webinars and training events that our office is currently planning right now. So we have a lot more things coming. So are there any other questions that have come in since then?
I'm not seeing anything.
Okay. With that being the case, I'd like to thank you again and look forward to the next time that we meet, whether it's live or whether it is on this webinar. Appreciate it. Any advice you have for us, comments, please send to us. Also, we will be sending you information with the links and any information you need to find anything we talked about today. So with that, we will end this presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.